The price of deception, a silent vengeance. Attention, viewers. Before we dive into this chilling tale, I ask you to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single twist in this story. What would you do if you had it all? A perfect marriage, a loving husband, a beautiful home, and a baby on the way. Now, what would you do if in a single, gut-wrenching moment you discovered it was all built on a foundation of lies? For Amelia Rose, the answer was not to scream, to cry, or even to leave. Her reaction was something far more terrifying. She found the woman sleeping with her husband, and she gave her a job. This isn't a story of forgiveness. It's a story of control, of a woman pushed to the edge who chose to rewrite her own tragedy, one calculated, devastating move at a time. Part 1. The perfect facade. The life Amelia Rose had meticulously built was a masterpiece of modern success. At 30 years old, she was the founder and CEO of Aurora Marketing, a boutique agency in the heart of London that had become the go-to for luxury brands seeking an edge. Her office, a symphony of glass, chrome, and soft gray furnishings, commanded a sweeping view of the vast metropolis, a daily reminder of the heights she had climbed. Her penthouse, a sprawling loft in a trendy industrial district, was her sanctuary. It smelled of jasmine candles, fresh brewed espresso, and the faint, sweet scent of the expensive prenatal lotions Amelia massaged into her growing, 7-month pregnant belly. Her husband, Mark Hughes, was the perfect final touch to this portrait of domestic bliss. Handsome, with a charming smile and the relaxed confidence of a man who worked in high finance, he was her rock. They had met in college, a whirlwind romance that had settled into a deep, comfortable love. He was the calm to her storm, the steady hand on her back at industry events, the man who would listen for hours as she strategized campaign ideas on their living room floor. He was, she believed, her soulmate, the father of her unborn child. The first crack in this porcelain existence appeared on a Tuesday. It was late, past midnight. Amelia had woken with a start to a familiar and now welcome flutter. The baby kicking. She smiled, rubbing her belly, and looked at Mark. He was fast asleep, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. His phone, which was usually on his nightstand, lay on the floor, having slipped from his hand. As she leaned over to pick it up, the screen lit up, a notification from an app she didn't recognize, a stylized flame icon. The message preview was short, but it was enough to stop the air in her lungs. "Chloe, still awake? Can't stop thinking about last night. Your skin against mine." Amelia's blood ran cold. It was a physical sensation, a painful frigidness that started in her chest and spread to the tips of her fingers. She stared at the screen, her mind refusing to process the words. Chloe. The name was a foreign object, a piece of shrapnel embedded in the soft fabric of her life. Last night Mark had come home late, a last-minute dinner with a client. He had said. He had come home smelling of expensive scotch and a faint floral perfume that wasn't hers. At the time, she hadn't thought twice. She trusted him. Her first instinct was a wave of raw, primitive rage. She wanted to wake him, shove the phone in his face, and watch his perfect features crumble into a mask of guilt. She wanted to scream, to shatter the quiet peace of their home, to let out the animal cry that clawed at her throat. But then a different instinct took over. It was the CEO in her, the strategist, who never made a move without first understanding the entire board. Screaming would give him the advantage. He would deny, deflect, manipulate her, call her hormonal, accuse her of being paranoid because of the pregnancy. He would seize control of the narrative. No, she would not give him that. With hands that shook almost uncontrollably, she picked up the phone. His thumbprint, inert in his sleep, was all it needed. She pressed it against the home button. The phone unlocked. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic, frightened bird. The app was a dating app, one known for discreet hookups. His message history was a novel of betrayal. Weeks of it. Months. "I've never felt this way about anyone," Mark had written. "When are you going to tell her?" Chloe had asked just 3 days ago. "Soon, babe. I promise. It has to be handled delicately. She's pregnant." The word delicately was a particular cruelty. He was handling the destruction of their marriage with the same detached care he would give a sensitive stock portfolio. And the use of her pregnancy, of their child, as a shield, as an excuse for his cowardice. That was the deepest cut of all. Amelia didn't sleep. She sat in the dark living room, the city lights a blur through her unshed tears. The rage was still there, a seething cauldron in her gut, but now it was joined by a chilling, crystal-clear clarity. Divorce was inevitable. Her life, as she knew it, was over. But it wouldn't end like this. She wouldn't be the tearful, broken victim in this drama. She was Amelia Rose. She built brands from nothing. Surely she could orchestrate a demolition. She needed to know her enemy. The next morning she operated on pure adrenaline. She feigned a headache, letting Mark fuss over her before he left for work, his kiss on her forehead feeling like a liar's brand. The moment the door closed behind him, she was on her laptop. Chloe. The dating app profile was sparse, but it had a last name. Fuentes. A quick social media search led her to an Instagram profile. Chloe Fuentes, 26 years old, pretty with an approachable, girl-next-door freshness. Her feed was filled with artsy photos of brunches, cityscapes, and selfies that radiated a hungry ambition. Her bio read, "Graphic designer, dreamer, making beautiful things." Amelia felt a fresh wave of nausea. Making beautiful things. She was trying to make something beautiful out of the wreckage of Amelia's life. With a few more clicks, Amelia found her professional online portfolio and then her LinkedIn profile. Chloe Fuentes was a freelance graphic designer, a talented one at that. Her aesthetic was clean, modern, and perfectly aligned with the kind of clients Aurora represented. And that's when the idea began to form. It was a monstrous, terrifying, and utterly brilliant thought. It started as a whisper in the back of her mind, a flash of vengeance so audacious it almost made her laugh. What if she didn't just watch Chloe from a distance? What if she brought her closer? What if she made this woman who was secretly trying to dismantle her life directly dependent on her for a paycheck? The plan was insane. Her best friend Amelia would have her committed. But the more she thought about it, the more it felt right. It was a move no one would see coming. It was a way to reclaim her power, not by ending the game, but by changing the rules so completely that she was the only one who knew how to play. She would learn every one of Chloe's weaknesses, her fears, her ambitions. She would see with her own eyes what Mark saw in her, and she would do it all from the ultimate position of power. As her boss, her agency for Aurora just so happened to have an opening for a mid-level graphic designer. The ad had just gone out last week. Amelia's fingers flew across the keyboard. She opened her work email, her expression hardening into a mask of pure, steely resolve. She found the generic HR email address listed on Chloe Fuentes' professional website. Subject: Graphic Design. Opportunity at Aurora. Dear Ms. Fuentes, my name is Amelia Rose, CEO of Aurora Marketing. I came across your online portfolio, and I was exceptionally impressed with the quality and creativity of your work. Your aesthetic aligns perfectly with the direction we are taking with several of our key luxury accounts. We currently have an opening for a senior graphic designer, a position I believe would be an excellent fit for your talents. If you are interested in exploring this opportunity, I would like to invite you to our offices for an interview at your convenience. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Amelia Rose. She hit send before she could doubt herself. The email launched into the digital void, a declaration of war disguised as a job offer. She leaned back in her chair, a hand resting protectively over her stomach. The baby kicked again, a tiny internal flutter. "Don't you worry, little one," she whispered to the empty room. "Mommy's got this." The war had begun, and Amelia Rose was about to bring her enemy right through the front doors. Part 2. The Silent Predator. 2 days later, Chloe Fuentes walked into the sleek, intimidatingly serene reception area of Aurora Marketing. She clutched a leather portfolio to her chest, her chosen outfit, a chic but professional black jumpsuit, radiating a carefully constructed confidence. She was nervous, but it was the excited nervousness of a young professional on the brink of a major career breakthrough. Aurora was the big leagues. A job here, working directly under the legendary Amelia Rose, was the stuff career dreams were made of. She had been ecstatic when she got the email. Amelia Rose herself had reached out. Chloe had told Mark about it during a clandestine lunch, her voice vibrating with excitement. She said she was exceptionally impressed with my work. Can you believe it? Mark had frozen for a second, a forkful of pasta halfway to his mouth. Amelia Rose from Aurora? Wow, Chloe. That's incredible. He felt a pang of unease, a strange convergence of his two separate lives that felt dangerous, but he quickly dismissed it. It was a coincidence, an odd, unsettling one. But nothing more. He couldn't tell Chloe that his wife was the CEO who wanted to hire her. The lie was too deep, the deception too entangled. So he simply said, "Wow, Chloe, that's incredible. You deserve it." Standing in the heart of Amelia's empire, Chloe had no idea she was a pawn in a game she didn't even know was being played. The receptionist led her down a long hallway to a corner office with a floor-to-ceiling glass wall that offered a breathtaking panoramic view of the city. And there she was, Amelia Rose. She was even more formidable in person. Even heavily pregnant, she commanded the space. She wore an impeccably tailored, cream-colored maternity dress that seemed to cost more than Chloe's rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe, elegant bun, and her expression was one of cool, unreadable authority. She didn't stand. She simply gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Ms. Fuentes, thank you for coming in. I'm Amelia Rose. It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Rose," Chloe said, her voice a little more breathless than she would have liked. She noticed the wedding ring, a formidable diamond that seemed to trap and refract the light with an accusatory gleam. "Please have a seat," Amelia said, her voice as smooth as silk, but with an undertone of steel. She didn't smile. The interview began with standard questions. Amelia asked about Chloe's design philosophy, her experience with specific software, and her previous freelance projects. Chloe, gaining confidence, answered fluently, opening her portfolio to show her best work. She was good. Amelia had to concede that. It made it all the more infuriating. Then, Amelia's questions began to shift. The change was subtle, a scalpel sliding between the ribs. "Tell me about your long-term goals, Chloe. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Amelia asked, leaning forward slightly, her hands clasped over her belly. The subtext screamed in her own mind. "Do you see yourself in my house raising my child?" "I want to be a creative director," Chloe answered truthfully. "I want to lead a team, to shape a brand's entire identity. I'm very ambitious." "Ambition is good," Amelia said, her gaze unblinking. but it can make people reckless. How do you handle high-pressure situations? Say, when you're dealing with a difficult client, or when the professional and personal lines blur. Chloe felt a flicker of unease at the phrase. I believe in maintaining professionalism at all times, she said carefully. Clear communication and managing expectations are key. You have to keep things separate. Oh, do you? Amelia thought, a silent, bitter laugh echoing in her head. Like keeping your affair with a married man separate from his pregnant wife. An excellent answer, Amelia said aloud, her face a perfect mask of corporate approval. She turned a page on Chloe's resume, though she wasn't reading it. She had already memorized every word. It says here, you value dedication and building lasting relationships. How do you define loyalty in a professional context, Chloe? The question hung in the air, sharp and heavy. Chloe shifted in her seat. Loyalty is commitment. It's about seeing a project through, being trustworthy, and having the company's best interests at heart. It's about honoring the faith someone puts in you. Every word was a new stab at Amelia's heart. This woman could sit in her office and talk about loyalty while actively trying to steal her husband. The audacity was breathtaking. Amelia felt the rage stir, but she channeled it into an icy calm. This wasn't about losing control. This was about... I see, Amelia said slowly, her eyes locked on Chloe's. And what about when a situation becomes untenable? When you find yourself in an ethically compromised position, do you walk away? Or do you see it through to the end, hoping for a different outcome? Chloe's professional smile wavered. The questions were becoming oddly personal, intensely philosophical for a design job interview. She thought of Mark, of the promises he had made her, of the stolen nights, and the guilt that sometimes gnawed at her. I believe in fighting for what you want, Chloe said, her voice hardening slightly, a flash of the defiance Amelia had seen in her Instagram bio. If you believe something is worth it, you don't give up. It was the confirmation Amelia needed. Chloe wasn't some naive girl swept up in a fantasy. She was a fighter. She had a goal, Mark, and she wasn't going to back down. Amelia stood up, a clear signal the interview was over. Chloe stood up quickly, her heart pounding. Had she messed up? Had she said the wrong thing? Amelia circled the desk, her presence filling the room. She stopped directly in front of Chloe. Close enough that Chloe could smell the expensive, subtle scent of her perfume. It smelled like power. You are very impressive, Chloe, Amelia said, her voice dropping to a confidential tone. You're hungry, you're talented, and you're not afraid to fight for what you want. I like that. She held out a hand. The job is yours. We can offer you a salary 60% higher than your current freelance rate, full benefits, and a significant signing bonus. We'd need you to start Monday. Chloe was speechless. She hadn't even discussed salary yet. It was an offer beyond her wildest dreams. The money, the prestige, the job itself. It was everything she had been working for. All her doubts vanished, replaced by a wave of triumphant euphoria. Yes, she stammered, shaking Amelia's hand. Amelia's grip was firm, cold, and lingered for a moment too long. Absolutely yes. Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Thank you so much. You won't regret it. Amelia finally allowed herself a small, tight smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were cold, calculating, and held the glint of something terrifying. Oh, I know I won't, she said softly, as Chloe practically floated out of the office, giddy with success. Amelia remained standing by the glass wall. She watched the young woman's back until she disappeared down the hallway. She had done it. The vixen was now in the henhouse, but the farmer was waiting with the keys to the cage. The first part of her plan was complete. Now the real torture could begin. She rested a hand on her belly, a silent promise to her child. The game had started, and she was about to discover just how loyal and dedicated Chloe Fuentes really was, not only to her new job, but to her husband. Part 3. The Golden Cage. Chloe's first week at Aurora was a dizzying whirlwind of new systems, new colleagues, and the intoxicating thrill of legitimacy. The office was even more impressive from the inside. She had her own spacious cubicle, complete with a brand new state-of-the-art computer. Her colleagues were smart, stylish, and welcoming. And the salary, her first paycheck landed in her account that Friday. A figure so substantial, it made her feel lightheaded. This was it. This was the life she was meant to live. Her boss, Amelia Rose, was an enigma. She was brilliant, demanding, and possessed an almost supernatural attention to detail. In meetings, she could dissect a campaign concept with surgical precision, her insights leaving everyone in the room scrambling to take notes. Chloe was in awe of her. She was also in awe of the sheer, unbridled power Amelia radiated. Amelia's management style was a masterclass in psychological warfare disguised as corporate rigor. On Chloe's very first day, Amelia assigned her to a major new client, a high-end Swiss watchmaker. It was a huge vote of confidence, and Chloe was determined to prove her worth. She poured her heart and soul into the initial branding concepts, working late into the night, fueled by ambition and takeout coffee. She presented her work to Amelia on Wednesday afternoon. Her hands trembled slightly as she walked her new boss through the sleek, sophisticated designs. Amelia listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When Chloe finished, she stared at the presentation on the screen for a long, agonizing minute. "It's competent," Amelia said finally, the word landing like a slap. "But it has no soul, Chloe. It feels generic. It's what anyone would do. I hired you because I thought you were exceptional, not competent." She pointed to a specific font Chloe had chosen. "This font is too soft. It suggests a lack of conviction. Start over. I want to see something with more conviction by Friday morning." Chloe was crushed. She had thought the designs were her best work, but she nodded meekly, gathered her things, and walked back to her desk, her face burning with humiliation. She spent the next 36 hours in a frenzied caffeine haze, redesigning the entire campaign from scratch. Meanwhile, Amelia watched. From her glass-walled office, she had a clear view of the entire floor. She saw Chloe's shoulders slump, saw her rub her tired eyes, and felt a grim, satisfying twist in her stomach. This was just the beginning. The torment was in the details. Amelia would casually walk by Chloe's desk while Chloe was on a furtive, whispered phone call, presumably with Mark. Amelia wouldn't break her stride, but her presence was enough to make Chloe stammer and hang up quickly. One afternoon, Amelia called Chloe into her office. "I have a personal favor to ask you," she said, her tone making it clear it was not a request. "My husband's firm is holding a charity gala next month. We're handling the marketing pro bono. I need a stunning invitation, something classic and elegant." Chloe's blood ran to ice. Her husband. She had to design an invitation for an event hosted by her lover's firm for her lover's wife. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. "Of course, Mrs. Rose," she managed to say. "His name is Mark Hughes," Amelia continued, watching Chloe's face for the slightest flicker of recognition. "He's a senior vice president at Sterling Capital. Perhaps you've heard of him." Chloe's heart hammered in her chest. She forced a neutral expression, an ability she was quickly learning was essential for surviving at Aurora. "I don't believe so, but I'll get on it right away." "Good," Amelia said, turning back to her computer. "He's very particular. He'll want to see the proofs himself." The lie was flawless. Mark had never looked at a proof in his life, but it was the perfect excuse to create a pressure cooker. Mark's life was becoming increasingly fraught. The affair, which had once been an exciting escape, was now a source of stress. Chloe was no longer the carefree, adventurous woman who had attracted him. She was constantly exhausted and on edge. "My boss is a nightmare," she complained during a hurried secret dinner. "She's a taskmaster, a perfectionist. She made me redo an entire campaign because she didn't like the font's conviction." "Then quit," Mark said exasperatedly. "You don't need this job, Chloe." "Quit, Mark? Are you crazy? This is Aurora. The money is incredible and the name on my resume is priceless. I just have to tough it out. The worst part is her husband is a client, and I have to design this whole gala invitation for them. It's so awkward." Mark nearly choked on his wine. Her husband. She's married? Of course she's married. She's massively pregnant, for God's sake. I feel so bad for the guy, honestly. He must be impossible to live with. A cold dread invaded Mark. A pregnant wife named Amelia. A husband whose firm was a client. It couldn't be. The odds were astronomical. He felt a desperate need to know his lover's boss's last name. "What's her name?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Amelia. I don't know her last name. Everyone just calls her Amelia or the CEO," Chloe replied, oblivious. "Anyway, I have to go. I have to pull an all-nighter to get this gala design perfect for Mark Hughes." The name hit him like a physical blow. Mark Hughes. She had said his name. He stared at her, his mind racing, connecting the dots with a sickening speed. Amelia Rose. Aurora. Pregnant. Her firm. His name. It was not a coincidence. His wife had hired his mistress. The realization did not come with an explosion, but a horrible, silent implosion. He felt the floor drop out from under him. This wasn't bad luck. This was a plan. A deliberate, calculated, and psychopathic plan. His brilliant, strategic wife, the woman he had underestimated, was playing a game so complex he couldn't even see the board. He looked at Chloe across the table, who was reapplying her lipstick, complaining about kerning and paper stock. She had no idea. She was a lamb being led to a slaughter she couldn't even conceive of, and he was trapped. What could he do? If he told Chloe, she would confront Amelia and the fallout would be catastrophic. If he confronted Amelia, she held all the cards. She could ruin him not just personally, but professionally. His wife wasn't just angry. She was dismantling his life piece by piece from the inside, and she was using his own mistress as a tool. The next few weeks were a living hell for Chloe and Mark. Amelia's cruelty became more refined. She would schedule last-minute emergency meetings on Friday nights, forcing Chloe to cancel plans with Mark. She would praise Chloe's work in front of the whole team, only to eviscerate it privately moments later. The ultimate twist of the knife came on a Tuesday afternoon. Amelia called Chloe on the intercom. "Chloe, could you come in for a moment?" When Chloe walked into the office, Amelia was on speakerphone. "So I'll see you there around 7:30, babe," Amelia was saying. "I love you." "I love you too, Ames," Mark's voice answered from the speakerphone, a voice Chloe knew intimately. Chloe froze. Her blood turned to ice water. That voice was Mark's. There was no mistake. Ames. That was his pet name for his wife. Amelia hung up the phone and looked at Chloe, a picture of innocence. "Sorry, my husband," she said with a warm, wifely smile. "He can be a bit needy. Now, about the banner ads for the Sterling Capital Gala." Chloe was rooted to the spot, her mind a whirlwind of confusion and horror. The CEO's wife was named Amelia. The CEO's wife's pet name was Ames. The CEO's wife was the pregnant, terrifying, brilliant woman, making her life a living hell. It all crashed down on her at once. The coincidence, the strangely personal questions in the interview, the constant pressure, the impossible demands, the overheard phone call. This was not a job. This was a prison, a gilded cage she had walked into so gleefully. She looked at Amelia. She really looked at her for the first time. The cold, evaluating gaze, the slight, knowing curve of her lip, the hand resting possessively on her belly. This was not a boss. This was a woman who knew everything, and in that moment, Chloe Fuentes understood she was not a participant in an affair. She was a character in a revenge plot, and the protagonist, the writer, and the director was the formidable, terrifying woman sitting right in front of her. The fear she felt was profound, a primal terror that went far beyond losing a job. She had vastly and catastrophically underestimated her enemy. What would you do in Chloe's shoes? Would you try to run, or would you face the truth? Let us know in the comments below. Part 4. The game changes. The revelation shattered Chloe's world. The office, once a symbol of her success, now felt like a panopticon. A prison where the warden watched her every move with knowing, vengeful eyes. Every task, every email, every casual comment from Amelia was now loaded with a terrifying subtext. A request to fetch coffee was a test of her subservience. Praise for her work was a cruel joke. Criticism was a direct personal attack. Chloe began to unravel. Her sleek ambition frayed into pure paranoia. She saw conspiracies everywhere. When a file on her computer was accidentally deleted by an IT glitch, she was convinced Amelia was behind it. When she was given the tedious task of archiving thousands of old image files, she saw it as a punishment. She began making mistakes, simple typos and important deadlines that were missed by a few hours. Her work, once her pride, began to suffer under the weight of her psychological torment. Her clandestine meetings with Mark became tense with a new kind of desperation. She knows Mark. She knows everything, Chloe hissed, huddled in a noisy, anonymous bar, far from any of their usual haunts. She called you on speakerphone right in front of me. She called you babe, and you called her Ames. Mark, who had been living with this awful knowledge for weeks, feigned surprise. What? No, you must have misheard. There are lots of guys named Mark. It was a weak, pathetic defense, and he knew it. But admitting he already knew would expose his cowardice, his complicity, and her suffering. Don't lie to me. Chloe's voice broke, tears welling in her eyes. Her name is Amelia Rose. Your wife's name is Amelia. She's the CEO of Aurora. This has all been a game. She's been torturing me, and you just let it happen. I didn't know, I swear. He lied, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Chloe, you have to quit. Now. Just walk away from all this. And where do I go? She shot back, her fear turning to anger. She'll ruin me, Mark. She's connected to everyone in this city. If I just quit, she could have me blacklisted. I'll never work in this city again. You have to do something. You have to face her. Fix this. Fix this? Mark felt a surge of rage and panic. You're the one who started seeing a married man. I'm the one with a wife who's orchestrating some kind of Machiavellian revenge plot. We are way past fixing this. The argument devolved into angry, low whispers, lost in the din of the bar. Their affair, once a secret, passionate escape, had become a toxic, claustrophobic trap. And Amelia was the one holding the key. Meanwhile, Amelia had her own observer. Her best friend, Eleanor, a sharp-witted corporate lawyer, had watched Amelia's transformation with growing alarm. She sat in Amelia's living room, surrounded by baby shower gifts, her expression one of deep concern. Ames, this has gone on long enough, Eleanor said, her voice soft but firm. I get it. He betrayed you. You wanted revenge. You hired the Mistress. It's the plot of a crazy movie. But you are 8 months pregnant. You're toying with this girl. You're running yourself ragged with stress. And for what? To prove a point you've already won. You have all the proof you need to divorce him and take him for everything he's worth. Amelia calmly folded a tiny baby bodysuit, her movements deliberate. It's not about the money, Elle. And it's not about proving a point. It's about control. He took away my control. He made me a victim. I'm taking it back. I need to see this through to the end. And what's the end? Eleanor pressed. What's your goal here? You humiliate them both, and then what? You still have a baby with this man. This level of vengeance scars everyone, including you. I'm not the one who will be scarred, Amelia said, her voice dropping to an unsettling calm. I'm the one holding the scalpel. But even Amelia was beginning to feel the strain. The constant performance was exhausting. The rage, which had once been a motivating, fiery fuel, had cooled into a heavy, cold stone in her chest. She wanted it to be over, but she couldn't simply fire Chloe and divorce Mark. It felt too simple, too anticlimactic. She needed a finale. She needed a checkmate. And then a new twist emerged, one that even Amelia, in her meticulous planning, couldn't have anticipated. It was a discovery that would change the very nature of the game. Amelia had asked Chloe to consolidate all the files for the watch client's account onto a single external hard drive for a client review. It was another busy work task, designed to keep Chloe occupied and stressed. That night, after Chloe had gone home, pale and drawn, Amelia took the hard drive into her office. She wasn't reviewing Chloe's work. She was looking for something else. A tell. The strategist in her wanted to know if Chloe had been careless, if she had left any personal files on the drive. She plugged it into her computer, deep inside a folder of stock images mislabeled textures. There was a hidden folder. Its name was M.H. Finances. Amelia's breath caught. M.H. Mark Hughes. With trembling fingers, she opened it. It wasn't just a few files. It was a treasure trove of corporate espionage. There were screenshots of Mark's private emails, scans of documents from his desk at Sterling Capital, detailed spreadsheets analyzing his stock portfolio, his bonuses, even the projected value of his inheritance from his parents. But it was the final subfolder that made Amelia's blood run cold. It was labeled Divorce Scenarios. Inside were a series of documents modeling possible divorce settlements. There were calculations based on infidelity clauses, asset division in their state, and even speculative valuations of how much Amelia's company was worth. Now, Chloe hadn't just been sleeping with her husband. She had been systematically researching his wealth, planning for the eventual breakup and her subsequent payday. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a meticulously planned heist. The realization hit Amelia with the force of a physical blow. She had seen Chloe as a rival for her husband's affection, a homewrecker. But she was wrong. Chloe Fuentes was not just a mistress. She was a predator, a con artist who had targeted Mark, probably seeing him as an easy mark. The affair wasn't the goal. It was the leverage. Suddenly, the entire narrative shifted. This was no longer just about a husband's betrayal. It was about an attack on her family, her finances, her legacy, and the future security of her unborn child. Chloe wasn't a love-struck girl who deserved pity or even a simple, straightforward vengeance. She was a calculating adversary who needed to be neutralized. A new, fierce energy surged through Amelia. The exhaustion vanished, replaced by a cold, sharpened fury. Her plan had been about emotional revenge, about reclaiming her power. Now it was about something far more primary: protection. She looked at the evidence on the screen. Chloe had been using Aurora's resources, its computers, its servers, to carry out this corporate espionage. She had been building a case against Mark while on Amelia's payroll. this wasn't just infidelity. It was grounds for a lawsuit. It was a weapon. Eleanor's words echoed in her head. "What's your goal here?" Now Amelia knew. The goal was not going to be just a confrontation. It was going to be an annihilation. She had the means to destroy not only her husband's affair, but the mistress herself, professionally and legally. She carefully copied the entire MH Finances folder onto her own secure server, a digital smoking gun. Then she deleted the original from the hard drive, leaving no trace of her discovery. She leaned back in her chair, a chillingly serene smile gracing her lips for the first time in months. The game had changed. The stakes were higher, and her path forward was brutally clear. The launch party for the Swiss watch client was in 2 weeks. It would be held at a sleek art gallery downtown. It was the perfect stage. Everyone would be there. Her team, her clients, the city's media, and, of course, her supportive husband, Mark, would be by her side. And the lead designer on the project, Chloe Fuentes, would be in charge of the presentation. It was time to plan the grand finale. Part 5. The night of the Kronos launch party was electric. The art gallery buzzed with the soft murmur of influential people, journalists, industry titans, and Aurora's most valuable clients. All of them sipping champagne and admiring the elegant watch displays. The event was the culmination of months of work, a testament to Aurora's prowess, and a personal triumph for Amelia. She moved through the crowd, a radiant, formidable queen in her own court. She wore a deep emerald evening gown, tailored to elegantly drape her 8.5-month pregnant figure. She didn't look tired or strained. She looked powerful, regal. By her side, playing his part, was Mark. He looked handsome in his tailored suit, but a keen observer would notice the tension in his jaw, the sweat on his brow. He knew something was coming. The air around his wife was too quiet, too charged. It was the unsettling stillness before a lightning strike. Across the room, Chloe Fuentes was a bundle of nerves. She wore a somber black dress, trying to look professional, but her hands trembled as she went over the presentation on a laptop behind the main stage. This party was supposed to be her crowning achievement, the moment her hard work on the Kronos account would pay off. Instead, it felt like her own execution. For weeks she had been trapped, working under the terrifying gaze of the woman she had wronged, forced to interact with her, to take orders, to even design the very invitations for this event that now felt like a stage for her own humiliation. Her plan to secure a comfortable future by leveraging Mark had failed spectacularly, leaving her in a psychological prison. All she wanted was for this night to be over. Amelia had set the stage with the precision of a master director. She had given Chloe a pivotal role, not only running the main presentation, but also curating a behind-the-scenes digital exhibit that would play on screens throughout the venue. She had also, 2 days prior, orchestrated a masterful piece of misinformation. During a casual conversation with another senior staff member, loud enough for Chloe to overhear, Amelia had mentioned a last-minute massive investment deal Mark's firm, Sterling Capital, was making in Kronos, contingent on the success of the launch. She mentioned a 7-figure success bonus for Mark personally. It was a complete fabrication, but it was the perfect bait. For a grifter like Chloe, the thought of Mark receiving a huge, immediate cash windfall would be an irresistible lure, making her feel even more desperate about her precarious position. The main presentation began. The lights dimmed. Chloe, from her post at the back, initiated the slideshow. Images of stunning watches and evocative lifestyle shots filled the giant stage screen. The presentation was flawless, a testament to Chloe's talent, even under duress. When it concluded, the room erupted in applause. The CEO of Kronos gave a brief, effusive speech praising Aurora and its brilliant team. Then he introduced the woman of the hour. And now I would like to welcome the visionary behind this entire campaign, the CEO of Aurora, Amelia Rose. Amelia walked onto the stage, a picture of grace and power. The applause swelled. Mark watched from the front row, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. This was it. "Thank you, everyone," Amelia began, her voice resonating with warmth and authority. "Thank you, Jean-Pierre, for your trust in us. At Aurora, we believe a brand isn't just a product, it's a story. It's about heritage, integrity, and most importantly, it's about trust." She paused, letting the word trust hang in the air. She smiled a brilliant, dazzling smile that didn't reach her cold, focused eyes. "Building something of lasting value," she continued, "whether it's a brand or a life, requires an unwavering commitment to that trust. But sometimes, that trust is broken. Sometimes, the story you believe you're living is revealed to be a complete fiction." A confused murmur spread through the audience. This was not the standard corporate thank you speech. Mark felt the blood drain from his face. He wanted to get up, to run, but he was frozen in his seat. "Tonight we've celebrated a story of precision, elegance, and legacy," Amelia said, her voice taking on a sharper tone. "But I want to share another story, a more personal one. It's a case study, if you will, in brand demolition." She gestured to the large screen behind her. The Kronos logo faded. In its place, an image appeared. It was a screenshot of a text message. "Chloe, can't stop thinking about last night. Your skin against mine." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Chloe, in the back of the room, felt the world tilt on its axis. Her presentation remote fell from her nerveless fingers. This couldn't be happening. "This is a message sent to my husband, Mark Hughes," Amelia announced, her voice as clear as a bell. "From one of my employees." Another image flashed onto the screen. It was the smiling, ambitious face of Chloe from her LinkedIn profile. The audience turned as one, looking for her. Chloe cowered in the shadows, her face a mask of pure horror. "My husband," Amelia said, slowly turning her gaze to lock on Mark's. "The man standing beside me, building a life with me, waiting for the birth of our first child." Mark stared back at her, his expression one of utter ruin. He was exposed, flayed open in front of his colleagues, his clients, the world. "But this story has another twist," Amelia continued, her voice hardening. "Because I discovered this wasn't just a simple, sordid affair. This was a business transaction." The screen changed again. It now showed the files from Chloe's hidden folder. Spreadsheets titled MH Finances, documents titled Divorce Scenarios, a detailed analysis of Sterling Capital's bonus structure. "You see?" Amelia explained calmly, as if delivering a standard marketing report. "My employee, Ms. Chloe Fuentes, wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was using my company's resources to carry out an exhaustive financial investigation on him. She was planning to leverage their affair into a lucrative divorce settlement. It was a hostile takeover of my life, executed on my time, and with my dime." The room was completely silent now, a tomb of shocked faces. All eyes were on Amelia, this heavily pregnant woman standing on a stage, calmly and methodically dismantling two lives with damning evidence on a 20-foot screen. Finally, she turned her attention to the back of the room, her voice laced with ice. "Chloe, you once told me in your interview that loyalty was about honoring the faith someone places in you. You told me you fight for what you want. I suppose I should thank you for showing me exactly what you think is worth fighting for." She looked back at the crowd. "Security," she said, her voice ringing with finality. "Please escort Ms. Fuentes from the premises. Her employment with Aurora, of course, has been terminated. We will be pursuing legal action for corporate espionage and theft of intellectual property." The burly security guards began to move towards the back of the room, where Chloe, paralyzed, was now sobbing. Then Amelia's gaze settled on her husband one last time. The look she gave him was not one of rage, but of cold, dismissive finality. It was the look you would give a stranger, a mistake that had been erased. "And as for you, Mark," she said, her voice dropping but audible to everyone in the stunned silence, "consider this your notice. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." She gestured to her friend in the front row. "Eleanor, you know what to do." With that, Amelia Rose, CEO, wife, and mother-to-be, turned away from the wreckage she had wrought. She rested a hand on her belly and walked off the stage, leaving behind a tableau of ruin and the deafening sound of silence. The grand finale was over. Checkmate. Part 6. A Queen's Legacy. In the aftermath of what the city's gossip columns dubbed the Gala of Annihilation, the lives of Mark Hughes and Chloe Fuentes were irrevocably shattered. Mark was fired from Sterling Capital within a week. His reputation in the high-stakes world of finance was reduced to cinders. The public humiliation was absolute. Chloe Fuentes disappeared. Faced with a lawsuit from Aurora and complete professional ostracization, she vanished from the city. Her name became a cautionary tale whispered in marketing agencies and bars. Amelia, however, did not collapse. The divorce was swift and brutal, with the evidence from the gala making any dispute on Mark's part impossible. She was granted a settlement that secured her and her child's future tenfold. 3 weeks after the gamble, she gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. She named her Sophia, which means wisdom. 6 months later, Amelia stood on the balcony of her penthouse. The city stretched out before her, no longer just a symbol of her ambition, but a testament to her resilience. In her arms, Sophia cooed happily, her tiny hand wrapped around Amelia's finger. Aurora was more successful than ever, with clients clamoring to be represented by the woman who had shown such a stunning strategic mastery. She was a single mother, yes, but she was not broken. She had been betrayed, but she was not a victim. She had taken the shattered pieces of her perfect life and used them to build a new foundation, stronger and more authentic than before. The cold fire of vengeance had been extinguished, replaced by the fierce, warm glow of a mother's love and the quiet confidence of a woman who had faced the ultimate betrayal and had not only survived, but emerged victorious on her own terms. The story was not a tragedy of a scorned wife. It was the origin story of a queen who had built her own throne. Interactive questions. Amelia's story is a powerful reminder that the deepest betrayals can come from the people we trust most, but it's also a tale of incredible strength. What do you think? Was Amelia a strategic genius who delivered a deserved punishment, or did her pursuit of vengeance go too far? Would you ever be able to do what she did? Share your thoughts below. If this story of real-life drama and incredible twists has captivated you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who would appreciate a story of ultimate revenge. Most importantly, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We have many more incredible true stories to share with you, and you won't want to miss a single one. Thanks for listening. The Shadow of the Past, a game of power and redemption. The white carpet of rose petals, scattered across the impeccable lawn, seemed to tremble as the distant sound of helicopter blades sliced through the melody of the string quartet. 300 guests, dressed in their finest attire, turned from the flower-adorned altar toward the sound, shielding their eyes from the afternoon sun. Victor Ribeiro, heir to one of the country's largest pharmaceutical empires, stood paralyzed at the altar, the color draining from his face as he recognized the sleek black helicopter descending over his family's property. What is that? Who is it? His fiancée, Sophia Diniz, clutched his arm, her diamond bracelet digging into his skin, but Victor could not answer. The air had left his body when the helicopter door opened, and a woman in a smart white pantsuit emerged, her caramel-colored hair dancing in the wind from the slowing blades. Then, two small figures emerged behind her. Twins, a boy and a girl, no older than 6 years old, each holding one of her hands, as they walked confidently toward the wedding ceremony. Victor's mother gasped audibly. Anyone could see it. The children had Victor's eyes. The fall from paradise, 6 years. 6 years earlier, Victor Ribeiro and Elisa Nogueira were the definition of a power couple. He was the brilliant heir to Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals, she a biochemist whose research had already saved countless lives. Their wedding had been the social event of the season, with their vows exchanged in the same garden where Victor now stood with another woman. Their marriage seemed perfect, passionate, supportive, and built on mutual respect. They traveled the world together, donated millions to charity, and were preparing to start a family. However, behind the scenes, storms were forming. Julião, Victor's childhood friend, had joined Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals as CFO, bringing his sister, Sophia, into their social circle. What no one knew was how these two siblings would systematically destroy everything Victor and Elisa had built. The Ribeiro estate glowed under the late afternoon lights as staff in impeccable uniforms circulated through the annual charity gala. Victor watched his wife from across the crowded ballroom, admiring how Elisa commanded attention in her emerald dress as she discussed her latest research with the Minister of Health. 6 years of marriage had only deepened his attraction to her brilliant mind and kind heart. "She's an incredible woman," Julião said, appearing at Victor's side with 2 whiskeys. "You're a lucky man." Victor accepted the drink with a smile. "I know. The clinical trials for her cancer treatment protocol are showing incredible results. The board is thrilled." Julião nodded, his eyes following Elisa as she laughed at something Sophia had said. "Must be nice to have beauty and brains under the same roof." "We're trying to have a baby, you know," Victor confided, the whiskey dulling his usual reserve. "Elisa's been tracking everything. She says the timing is perfect this month." Julião's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Parenthood, huh? That'll change everything." Later that night, Elisa came out of her private bathroom to find Victor sitting on the edge of their bed, her phone in his hand. His face was unrecognizable, contorted with rage and betrayal. "Victor, what are you doing with my phone?" "Who is Miguel?" His voice was dangerously calm, Elisa's brow furrowed in confusion. "Miguel? I don't know any." "Don't lie to me." He threw the phone at her, showing her text messages she had never seen before. Intimate messages, explicit plans for rendezvous. "You've been seeing him for 3 months? In our bed, Elisa? While I was away on business?" "Victor, I've never seen these messages. I don't know any Miguel." Her hands shook as she scrolled through conversations that appeared to be from her number, but which contained words she had never written. "His cologne was on your clothes. He knew things about our house that only someone who had been here could know." Victor got up, running his hands through his dark hair. "Julião found him. The private investigator confirmed everything." "Julião?" Elisa's mind raced. "Victor, this is fake. Someone planted these messages. I never—" The bedroom door opened, and Julião walked in without knocking. "Security found this in her car." He handed Victor a small bag containing a man's watch and a hotel keycard. "I've never seen that," Elisa cried, trying to reach Victor, who pulled away as if her touch burned him. "Get out," Victor whispered, then louder. "Get out of my house." "Victor, please, I'm your wife. I love you." Tears streamed down her face as Julien signaled to the security guards waiting in the hallway. "Not anymore. I want divorce papers drafted tonight, Julien." "It's already been arranged," Julien replied, without looking at Elisa's desperate gaze. The next few moments passed in a horrible blur as security escorted Elisa out of the bedroom. She pleaded with Victor to listen, to think logically. "Why would I cheat on you when we were trying for a baby?" But rational thought had abandoned him, replaced by a primal rage, fueled by what appeared to be irrefutable evidence. In 30 minutes, Elisa found herself standing in the entryway of her home in her nightgown, watching staff hastily throw packed bags into the trunk of her car. Victor watched from the balcony, his face a stone mask, while Julien stood beside him, a hand on his shoulder in apparent comfort. "Your key cards have been deactivated," the head of security informed her coldly. "Your accounts will be frozen in the morning. Mr. Ribeiro suggests that you do not attempt to contact him or anyone else at the company." The rain began to fall as Elisa got into her car, gasping through sobs. Her phone vibrated with a notification. "Access to your email revoked." Then another. "Your building access has been terminated." Then a third. A preliminary notice of divorce proceedings. 5 miles from the estate, she pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour pharmacy and sat there, trembling, under the fluorescent lights. This could not be happening. There had to be some explanation. Someone had set her up. But who? And why? Her mind immediately went to Julien's strange behavior over the last few months, the way he seemed to appear whenever she and Victor were at odds. The subtle suggestions that he might be working too hard or traveling too often. Then, a wave of nausea hit her, a familiar sensation from the last few mornings that she had attributed to stress. With shaking hands, she got out of the car, went into the pharmacy, and bought a pregnancy test. 3 minutes later, looking at the positive result in the sterile pharmacy bathroom, Elisa Nogueira's world completely crumbled. She was pregnant with Victor's child, homeless, and facing a vicious divorce orchestrated by someone she now suspected had been plotting this for months. At dawn, she parked near Victor's office building, determined to make him listen to her. But security intercepted her before she reached the door. "Mr. Ribeiro does not want to see you, Mrs. Ribeiro," the guard said, uncomfortable but firm. "Tell him I'm pregnant," she pleaded. "Please, just tell him that." The guard disappeared inside. 10 unbearable minutes later, he returned. "Mr. Ribeiro says that given your infidelity, he has no reason to believe the child is his. His lawyer will contact you for a paternity test after the birth." Elisa's legs gave out at the cruelty of it. Through the glass doors, she could see Julien watching from the lobby, his expression unreadable. That afternoon, she discovered that her credit cards had been canceled. By nightfall, her closest friends had stopped calling her back, all part of the same social circle as Victor. As night fell, she was sleeping in her car in a supermarket parking lot, 7 weeks pregnant and completely alone. She didn't know it yet, but the ultrasound she would have 2 weeks later would reveal an even bigger surprise. Twins. The Queen's rise, the first ray of hope came in the form of Helena Garcia, an elderly woman who found Elisa vomiting next to her car one early morning. "Either you're pregnant or you're dying, dear," Helena observed with surprising bluntness. "Either way, you need help." Helena, a widow who had lost her only daughter to cancer years earlier, offered Elisa her daughter's old room until she could sort things out. It was in Helena's modest home that Elisa finally found the space to think clearly about what had happened and to plan her response. She pawned her wedding ring for 12,000 euros, a fraction of its value, but enough for prenatal care and a used laptop. Then, she began to meticulously document everything that had occurred, creating timelines, saving the evidence she was able to retrieve. The picture that emerged confirmed her suspicions. Julio, with Sophia's help, had orchestrated her downfall. But why? What could they stand to gain? The answer came from an unexpected source. While looking for job openings at a cafe, Elisa overheard two pharmaceutical researchers discussing irregularities in Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals' recent drug trial reports. "The numbers don't add up," one whispered. "The side effect profiles were clearly altered before submission." "Julio signed off on everything," the other replied. "Victor probably didn't even see the original data." Elisa's scientific mind kicked into gear. She had been working on those same trials before she was cast out. If Julian was falsifying data, that wasn't just fraud. It was dangerous. People could die, and if she had stayed, she might have found out. That night, cradling her growing belly, Elisa made a decision. Victor had failed her completely, choosing blind rage over trust. But she would not allow Julian's schemes to hurt innocent people or to steal her children's future. "Your father didn't want us," she whispered to her unborn twins. "But that's okay. We're going to build something so spectacular that one day he'll realize exactly what he threw away." Morning sickness was a cruel name, Elisa discovered, as she vomited for the third time that afternoon. 4 months pregnant with twins, her body was changing rapidly, making it nearly impossible to hide her condition during job interviews. "I'm sorry, Dr. Noguera," the laboratory director said, without looking her in the eye. "Your qualifications are impressive, but we've already filled the position." It was the same response she had received at 5 other research facilities. Someone, almost certainly Julian, had blacklisted her across the entire industry. Helena found her crying on the porch swing that night. "Cheer up, dear," the old woman said, sitting beside Elisa. "The world doesn't end just because a man was too foolish to see your worth." "It's not just Victor," Elisa explained. "No one will hire me. My research background means nothing when Julian tells them I'm unstable or dishonest." Helena considered this. "Then perhaps you need to meet people who have never heard of Julian." The next day, Helena took Elisa to a small community clinic that served primarily low-income patients. The waiting room was packed, the staff overworked. "My friend, Dr. Rebecca Vidal, runs this place," Helena explained. "She doesn't care about pharmaceutical politics, only about helping people." Dr. Vidal was a human-shaped hurricane, a brilliant researcher who had left a prestigious position to serve those without access to proper medical care. After a 5-minute conversation about Elisa's research background, she offered her a part-time job analyzing patient data. "I can't pay you what you're worth, Dr. Noguera," Dr. Vidal warned. "And I see you're expecting twins." Elisa nodded. "I could tell by the way you're carrying yourself. Classic twin presentation," Dr. Vidal explained. "Look, it's not a glamorous job, but it's honest. And no one here is going to judge you for being pregnant and single, if that's what you're worried about." For the first time in months, Elisa felt a glimpse of hope. "When can I start?" The job was, in fact, unglamorous. Organizing patient records, analyzing treatment outcomes, and helping to optimize the clinic's protocols. But it kept Elisa's mind sharp, and it provided enough income to supplement what she had gotten from her wedding ring. At 7 months pregnant, she staggered into Dr. Vidal's office with a discovery she couldn't ignore. "There's a pattern in these cancer patients," Elisa explained, spreading charts across the desk. "Those taking the new Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals drug are showing hepatic complications at triple the reported rate." Dr. Vidal studied the data. "This is concerning. Are you sure?" The sample size is small, but the pattern is unmistakable, Elisa confirmed, and it tracks with what I overheard about falsified trial data. Dr. Vidal's expression darkened. We should report this to the European Medicines Agency, the EMPSA. On what evidence? Elisa sighed. They'll say our data set is too limited. We need more proof. What we need, Dr. Vidal said thoughtfully, is to develop an alternative treatment, something safer. Elisa blinked. That would take years and millions in funding. Not necessarily. Dr. Vidal smiled mysteriously. I happen to have a fully equipped laboratory at my home. It's where I conduct my own research after hours. Maybe it's time you saw it. Dr. Vidal's home laboratory turned out to be a state-of-the-art facility, built in what had once been a large barn on her property. My late husband left me quite comfortable, Dr. Vidal explained. I use my inheritance to fund research that big companies won't touch. Treatments for rare diseases, affordable alternatives to expensive drugs. Elisa ran her hand over the gleaming equipment. This is incredible. It's also private, Dr. Vidal emphasized. No corporate oversight. No shareholders demanding quarterly profits at the expense of safety. Just pure science. She fixed Elisa with an intense look. Your previous work on cancer treatment protocols was groundbreaking. What would you do if you had the freedom to continue that research your way? The question awakened something in Elisa that had been dormant since her casting out. The passionate researcher who had once believed she could change the world. 2 weeks later, Leo and Luna Ribeiro came into the world at Dr. Vidal's clinic. Healthy, perfect, and blissfully unaware of the chaos surrounding their birth. No birth announcement appeared in the newspapers. No proud father paced the lobby. Just Helena, wiping away happy tears as she held the newborns. And Dr. Vidal, who had delivered them herself. They have your eyes, Helena observed softly. Yes, Elisa nodded, studying her son's serious expression and her daughter's curious gaze. But I hope my common sense. The recovery from childbirth was complicated by emotional exhaustion, but Elisa allowed herself only 2 weeks before returning to Dr. Vidal's laboratory, often with the twins sleeping nearby in a portable bassinet. Days became weeks, weeks became months, as Elisa perfected her research, focusing on developing a cancer treatment with significantly fewer side effects than Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals' leading drug. When the twins were 8 months old, the breakthrough arrived. Elisa had created a compound that showed remarkable efficacy against aggressive cancers while maintaining a benign side effect profile. Dr. Vidal was euphoric. This is extraordinary, she declared, reviewing the lab results. You need to patent this immediately. Patents require money, Elisa reminded her, and lawyers. Which I have, Dr. Vidal replied. But more importantly, this discovery deserves to reach patients. It needs a company to get behind it. Elisa laughed bitterly. What company would work with the discarded wife of Victor Ribeiro? Dr. Vidal gave her a long, measured look. A new one, she said. One that you start yourself. The idea seemed preposterous at first. Elisa had no business experience, no industry contacts, and barely enough money to pay for the twins' diapers. But Dr. Vidal was persistent, finally revealing that she had been discreetly investing in biotech startups for years. I am prepared to provide seed funding, she told her. My only conditions are that you maintain full control and that the drugs we develop remain affordable. Why would you do this for me? Elisa asked, suspicious of such generosity after months of betrayal. Because 20 years ago I was you, Dr. Vidal replied simply. Brilliant, betrayed, and underestimated. The man who did it to me went on to become a pharmaceutical giant. selling drugs for 20 times their production cost. I have spent 2 decades looking for someone who could help me change that system. She smiled at the twins, who were playing on a blanket nearby. Consider it my investment in the next generation. Phoenix Pharmaceuticals was born in Dr. Vidal's barn laboratory, with Elisa using her maiden name, Elisa Noguera, to avoid an immediate association with Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals. Her first patent application went through without a hitch. Julio and Victor remained completely unaware that their former colleague was building a rival company. By the time the twins turned 2, Phoenix had secured EMPA's approval for its first drug and had begun small-scale production. Dr. Vidal's industry contacts proved invaluable, opening doors that would have remained firmly shut to Elisa alone. Their first major contract came from the La Misericordia hospital network, which had been struggling with the high cost and worrisome side effects of Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals' cancer treatments. Phoenix offered an effective alternative at half the price, with significantly better patient outcomes. The announcement caused small waves in industry publications. Newcomer Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, led by scientist Elisa Noguera, secures multi-million-dollar contract with La Misericordia hospital network, challenging established players in the oncology drug market. At Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals, the news received little attention. A new competitor was not unusual in their industry, and the company name raised no red flags. It was only when their largest hospital client announced they were switching suppliers that alarms began to sound. Julien burst into Victor's office, throwing a report on his desk. "We just lost Metropolitan Hospital to a startup called Phoenix. That's 30 million euros in lost annual revenue." Victor, now more involved in the social aspects of the business than the scientific work that had once impassioned him, barely looked up. "Then offer them a better deal." "I did," Julio exclaimed. "They refused. They said the Phoenix drug has superior outcomes and fewer side effects. Their exact words were, 'Ribeiro's product doesn't compare.'" This finally caught Victor's attention. "That's impossible. Our R&D team has been working on that formulation for years." "Well, apparently, this Elisa Noguera person figured out in 2 years what our team couldn't in 5. Julien's tone was carefully calibrated to suggest incompetence rather than his own sabotage of Ribeiro's research after Elisa's departure. "Elisa Noguera?" Victor frowned, the name stirring something in his memory. "No one knows much about her," Julien continued smoothly. "She sort of appeared out of nowhere about 3 years ago. Very private, never gives interviews, but her science is apparently exceptional." "I want to meet her," Victor decided. "Arrange a dinner. Perhaps we should consider acquiring Phoenix rather than competing with it." Julien's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'll try, but my sources say she turns down most meeting requests, especially from larger pharmaceutical companies." "Everyone has their price," Victor replied dismissively, turning back to the social calendar on his desk, where Sophia had scheduled several charity galas they would attend together. Meanwhile, across town, Elisa was sitting in Phoenix's modest but growing headquarters, reviewing their latest financial projections, while the twins calmly colored in the small play area of her office. "Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals lost another contract today," her assistant mentioned, placing new reports on her desk. "Their stock is down 8%. Elisa allowed herself a small smile. "That's a shame for them." "This too," the assistant added, sliding a business magazine over. On the cover was Victor, with Sophia on his arm at a charity event. The title read, "Ribeiro heir to wed Sophia Denise in spring ceremony." Elisa's expression remained neutral as she studied the image of the man who had thrown her out of their home. The man whose children were now calmly drawing a few feet away. Children he had never bothered to confirm were his, despite his initial request for a paternity test. "Mommy, look!" Luna held up a drawing of what appeared to be their small family. Elisa, Leo, Luna, Helena, and Dr. Vidal, all holding hands. "It's us!" "That's beautiful, darling," Elisa replied, her voice firm despite the emotions bubbling beneath. Later that night, after putting the twins to bed, Elisa sat on her balcony overlooking the city. In the distance, she could see the Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals tower lit against the night sky. 3 years of strategic work had transformed Phoenix into a formidable competitor, one that was beginning to seriously impact Ribeiro's bottom line. But that had never been her primary goal. Her phone buzzed with a message from her investigator, an old patient whose life had been saved by Phoenix's drug, and who now used his skills as a financial analyst to track Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals' activities. "I've found something significant in their quarterly reports, hidden inconsistencies that suggest at least 80 million euros unaccounted for. I need to dig deeper." Wedding date also confirmed. May 15th. May 15th. The exact date. 6 years prior, when security had escorted her out of her home. Elisa closed her eyes. The timing could not be a coincidence. Julio and Sofia had a flair for psychological cruelty. Choosing that specific date was clearly meant to completely erase her existence from Victor's life. But they had miscalculated gravely, because while they planned a wedding, Elisa had been building an empire, and more importantly, she had been gathering evidence of financial fraud, of deliberately concealed drug side effects, and of the elaborate plot to frame her for infidelity. The twins deserved to know their father, Dr. Vidal had told her repeatedly, and Victor deserves to know what Julian did. Elisa had resisted for years, protecting the peaceful world she had created for her children. But seeing the wedding announcement, planned for the anniversary of her greatest humiliation, something crystallized within her. The time for the truth to come out. All of it. Elisa's revenge and the villain's fall. The Ribeiro estate had never looked so magnificent. Thousands of white roses adorned the garden, where 300 guests had gathered to witness the union of Victor Ribeiro and Sofia Denise. String musicians played softly as guests took their seats, their murmured conversations creating a gentle hum of anticipation. Victor stood at the altar, handsome in his custom tuxedo, although close observers might have noted the slight emptiness in his eyes. In the front row, his parents exchanged worried glances. They had never fully warmed to Sofia, although they had kept their reservations private. Julian, serving as the best man, watched the scene with ill-disguised satisfaction. Everything had gone according to plan. A few months after Elisa's departure, he had introduced his sister Sofia to Victor. Her calculated affection had been the perfect distraction from Victor's occasional questions about the evidence against Elisa. Meanwhile, Julian had systematically siphoned off company funds, set up offshore accounts, and positioned himself to eventually take full control of Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals. The wedding officiant took his position. The music changed to the wedding march. Sofia appeared at the end of the aisle in a designer dress that had cost more than most houses. And then, the distant sound of helicopter blades. At first, the guests assumed it was part of the celebration, perhaps an elaborate entrance or a surprise planned by the groom. But Victor's look of confusion quickly turned to alarm as the black helicopter descended toward the estate's heliport. "What's going on?" Sofia demanded, reaching the altar as guests began to turn toward the noise. Victor didn't answer. Something about the helicopter felt strangely familiar. The ceremony stopped as the helicopter landed. Security personnel moved uncertainly toward the heliport, unsure whether to intervene, as no one had authorized them to stop the aircraft. Then the door opened, and she stepped out. Even from a distance, Victor recognized her immediately. The world seemed to shrink to a single point as Elisa, his ex-wife, the woman he had cast aside 6 years ago, walked calmly toward the ceremony in a smart navy blue pantsuit that emphasized how little she had changed. Her hair was different, her posture more confident, but her face stirred something deep in him that he had desperately tried to forget. Then, 2 small figures emerged from the helicopter behind her, a boy and a girl, holding hands, looking around with curious expressions that mirrored Victor's when he was confronted with something new. "My God," Victor's mother whispered, rising from her seat. "Ricardo, look at them." Victor's father also stood, his face pale with shock. "They have your eyes. Victor's eyes." Murmurs spread through the crowd as Elisa and the children walked purposefully toward the ceremony. Security looked to Victor for instructions, but he remained frozen, unable to process what he was seeing. "What is this?" Sophia whispered, gripping Victor's arm. "Who is this woman? Why is she here with these children?" Julian took a step forward, his face contorted with rage and fear. "I'll handle this." He signaled to security, but Elisa's calm voice cut through the chaos. "I wouldn't do that, Julian, unless you want your financial activities made public now rather than in tomorrow's newspapers." Julian hesitated as Elisa and the children reached the edge of the seating area. The twins, immaculately dressed and remarkably poised for their age, stood close to their mother, studying the scene with intelligent eyes. "Victor," Elisa said, her voice echoing in the now silent gathering. "Meet your children, Leo and Luna, the ones you never knew existed when you threw me out 6 years ago." The collective gasp from the guests was audible. Victor's mother put a hand to her mouth, tears filling her eyes, as she looked at her grandchildren for the first time. "That's impossible," Sophia exclaimed. "She's lying, Victor. Tell everyone she's lying." But Victor couldn't speak. He was looking at the children, at the boy whose serious expression and thoughtful eyes were eerily familiar, at the girl whose determined posture mirrored his own in childhood photographs. "The DNA evidence confirming their paternity has already been submitted to the family court," Elisa continued calmly, "along with evidence of how Julian and Sophia conspired to take me out of your life by fabricating evidence of infidelity." Julian stepped forward. "Security, get this woman out of here immediately." "I wouldn't do that," said another voice, as Dr. Rebecca Vidal emerged from behind Elisa. "Unless Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals wants the EMSA to receive our full file on the falsified retinol side effect profiles tonight instead of next week." The crowd erupted in confused chatter. Victor's parents pushed past security to get closer to the children, his mother kneeling despite her expensive dress to look the twins in the eye. "Hello," she said softly. I would be your grandmother." Luna, always the bolder twin, studied the older woman carefully before replying. "You look like the pictures Mommy keeps in our memory box." This simple statement, which revealed that Elisa had ensured the children knew their paternal family despite everything, seemed to break something in Victor's mother. She began to cry openly, reaching out a hesitant hand that Luna accepted with surprising grace. Victor finally found his voice. "Elisa, how? When?" "I was 7 weeks pregnant when you threw me out," she replied, maintaining her measured tone despite the emotion simmering beneath the surface. "I tried to tell you. Your security guards delivered the message. You said you wanted a paternity test after the birth, but no one ever contacted me." Victor turned to Julian, a crushing horror and confusion on his face. "What are you talking about? I never received any message about a pregnancy." Julian's expression hardened. "She's lying. This is obviously an elaborate plot to—" "To what, Julian?" Elisa interrupted. "To interrupt the wedding you specifically scheduled for the anniversary of my being cast out. To reveal that you and Sophia have siphoned over 80 million euros from Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals? Or perhaps to inform Victor that I am the Elisa Nogueira he's been trying to meet, the founder of Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, which has been consistently taking your market share for the past 3 years? The revelations fell like physical blows. Victor recoiled, looking from Julian to Sophia, then back to Elisa and the children, his children, standing calmly in the midst of the chaos they had started. "This is absurd," Sophia declared, though her voice trembled slightly. "Victor, she's clearly deranged. We need to get her out of here." "Actually," a new voice said from the back of the gathering, "I think the person we're getting out of here is Ms. Denise." Two individuals in dark suits approached, flashing federal badges. "Criminal Investigation Unit. Financial crimes. We have questions about certain financial transactions between Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals and offshore accounts in your name, ma'am." As the federal agents escorted a protesting Julian and Sophia away from the ceremony, the wedding guests began to disperse in confused and scandalized groups. Some stayed in the distance, reluctant to miss the dramatic conclusion of what was supposed to be a simple social wedding. Victor approached Elisa and the children slowly, as if in a trance. He knelt before the twins, studying their faces with awe and devastation. "Hello," he said simply, his voice hoarse with emotion. Leo, always the more cautious twin, hid partially behind his mother's leg, but Luna looked directly at her father. "You look like your pictures too," she informed him matter-of-factly. "But Mommy's are from when you were happier." Victor's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know about you. I would have—" His voice trailed off as the enormity of what he had lost washed over him. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," Elisa suggested, glancing at the remaining onlookers. "Your parents are welcome to join us." Victor nodded numbly. Then he turned to find his mother and father, already standing nearby, unable to take their eyes off their grandchildren. "The helicopter is waiting," Elisa added, "unless they'd prefer to stay and explain to your guests why there won't be a wedding today." As they walked towards the heliport, Victor found himself at Elisa's side, with the twins a little ahead of them, with his parents in fascinated tow. "Why now?" he asked in a low voice. "After 6 years, why did you choose this moment?" Elisa's expression remained carefully neutral. "Because the twins deserve to know their father, because your parents deserve to know their grandchildren, and because Julio and Sophia were about to complete their takeover of your company, leaving you penniless and potentially implicated in their crimes." She paused. "The timing of the wedding date, the anniversary of when you cast me out, simply provided a certain poetic symmetry." In the helicopter, as they flew toward Elisa's home, Victor watched his children point excitedly at landmarks below. They were bright, articulate, and obviously well-raised. The life Elisa had built without him suddenly seemed to materialize in his mind. The birthdays he had missed, the first steps, the first words, the bedtime stories, and the early morning breakfasts. 6 years of memories he would never get back. "Where are we going?" Victor asked in a low voice. "To my home," Elisa replied. "There are documents you need to see, evidence of what Julião and Sophia have been doing with your company." She hesitated. "And things the children want to show you." The helicopter landed on the rooftop helipad of a sleek building with the Phoenix Pharmaceuticals logo. As they descended into a penthouse apartment, Victor realized with growing astonishment the magnitude of Elisa's success. This wasn't just a company. It was an empire built from nothing in 6 short years. Inside the spacious and welcoming penthouse, the twins immediately ran to a bookshelf that displayed their artwork and school accomplishments. "We want to show you our room," Luna announced, grabbing Victor's hand with the ease of a child who had never known rejection. Leo followed more hesitantly, carefully watching his father's reactions. As Victor was guided through the home Elisa had created, each detail revealed another facet of the life that had gone on without him. Family photographs from vacations and birthdays, evidence of the twins' distinct personalities in their carefully decorated room, shelves filled with well-read storybooks. In the twins' room, a space divided to reflect their different interests, Luna's half filled with astronomy decorations and science projects, Leo's with books and intricate building games. Victor noticed a small box on a shelf labeled Dad. "Can I show him, Mommy?" Luna asked when Elisa appeared at the doorway. With Elisa's nod, Luna retrieved the box and opened it to reveal newspaper clippings, photographs, and even Victor and Elisa's wedding announcement from years ago. "Mommy made this so we'd know about you," Luna explained, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "She said you were very smart, and that's why we're smart too." Victor looked at Elisa in disbelief. Despite everything he had done or failed to do, she had ensured that their children knew him, at least to some extent. "I'll give you some time with them," Elisa said in a low voice. "When you're ready, we need to talk about Julian's activities. Your parents are in the living room, rebuilding trust and forging a future." In the elegantly furnished living room, Victor's parents sat uncomfortably on a sofa, still stunned by the day's revelations. Victor's father, Ricardo Ribeiro, a formidable businessman in his own right, looked completely lost as he accepted a cup of tea from Elisa. "How did we not know?" he asked, his voice thick with regret. "Our own grandchildren." "Julian was very thorough," Elisa replied without bitterness. "He intercepted communications, falsified documents, and ensured that Victor only received the information he wanted him to." "But why?" Victor's mother asked. "What did he have to gain?" Elisa opened a laptop on the coffee table. "Control of Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals. He and Sophia have been systematically siphoning off funds, while at the same time setting Victor up to take the fall for covering up dangerous side effects of your drugs." She turned the screen to show them complex financial records. As soon as they were married, Sophia would have had access to Victor's personal accounts and properties. They planned to complete the asset transfer a few months after the wedding. Ricardo Ribeiro studied the documents with growing horror. "These are board-level financial reports. How did you get them?" "I have sources within Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals," Elisa acknowledged. "People who remained loyal to the company's original mission, rather than Julian's vision." Victor entered the room, visibly moved from his time with the children. "They're incredible," he said simply, looking at Elisa with new eyes. "How did you do that? Raise them and build a company from nothing too?" "I had help," Elisa replied. "Dr. Vidal, for one, and an old woman named Helena, who took me in when I was homeless and pregnant." "Homeless?" Victor's mother repeated, horrified. "Yes," Elisa confirmed, her tone clinical rather than accusatory. "When Victor ordered me removed from our home, my accounts were frozen, my credit cards canceled, and my reputation destroyed. I slept in my car for 2 weeks before Helena found me vomiting in a parking lot from morning sickness." The raw reality of what Elisa had endured hit Victor like a physical blow. "I never knew," he whispered. "Julian told me you had moved in with your lover." "There was no lover, Victor," Elisa said quietly. "There was just me, 7 weeks pregnant with your children, trying to survive, while Julian was sick with a need to destroy everything we had built together." Victor sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The evidence had seemed so conclusive. The text messages, the watch, even the witnesses. "All fabricated," Elisa confirmed. "Julian hired someone to create fake text messages. The watch and hotel key were planted. The witnesses were paid." She opened another file on her laptop. "This is the payment record from Julian's private account to the man who pretended to be my imaginary lover. And it continued, turning to another document. This is the restraining order you supposedly filed, which prevented me from approaching you to talk about my pregnancy. Victor looked at the document with horror. I never filed this. Julian forged your signature, Elisa explained, just as he did on countless company documents, authorizing the release of drugs despite concerning test results. As the full magnitude of Julian and Sophia's betrayal became apparent, Victor seemed to physically age before their eyes. His parents looked equally devastated, particularly his mother, who kept glancing down the hallway where laughter could occasionally be heard from the twins' room. Why didn't you expose them sooner? Ricardo finally asked. With such exhaustive proof, you could have cleared your name years ago. Elisa considered her answer carefully. In the beginning, my only concern was surviving. Then, protecting the twins became paramount. By the time Phoenix was established enough for me to consider a confrontation, I had to weigh the impact on innocent Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals employees and patients. She looked at Victor directly. Despite everything, I never wanted to destroy the company or hurt those who depended on it. Victor looked at her with a new understanding. So instead, you built a competing company with better products and ethical practices, gradually shifting patients to safer drugs while you gathered evidence against Julian. Yes, Elisa acknowledged. Phoenix wasn't just built out of revenge, Victor. It was built because I saw how Julian was corrupting your company's mission. The mission we once shared to help people. A gentle knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Dr. Vidal came in, carrying a tablet. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you should see this. The news of Julião and Sophia's arrest has gone public, and the Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals Board of Directors has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. Victor paled. The company will collapse? Not necessarily, Elisa replied. I've prepared a proposal for their consideration. She pulled a folder from her desk and handed it to Victor. A merger between Phoenix and Ribeiro. It would stabilize things if it were presented quickly. Your parents have copies. Perhaps they could go with you while I handle the twins' morning routine. The simple domestic reference, the morning routine she had managed alone for 6 years, hung between them, highlighting everything Victor had lost due to his rushed judgment and misplaced trust. Thank you, he said finally, for the proposal, for dinner, for everything. He hesitated. Would it be appropriate for me to say goodnight to the twins? Elisa nodded. They're probably still awake. Luna rarely falls asleep before she's extracted at least 3 bedtime stories. A trace of a smile crossed Victor's face. She's persistent, like her mother. Yes, Elisa nodded, leading him toward the children's room. Although her negotiation tactics come entirely from your side of the family. The Phoenix rises. The Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals conference room hummed with tension as the board members gathered for the emergency meeting. News of Julião and Sophia's arrests had spread quickly through financial circles, and the company's stock trading had been suspended pending the investigation. Victor sat at the head of the table, his father beside him, both men looking exhausted, but resolute. The board members, many of them longtime family friends, looked shocked by the revelations about Julián's activities. The situation is serious, but it is not unrecoverable, Victor began, his voice firm despite his inner turmoil. With your permission, I would like to present a path forward proposed by... For the next hour, Victor described the merger proposal Elisa had prepared. The board listened with growing interest as he explained how combining Phoenix's groundbreaking research with Ribeiro's established infrastructure could preserve jobs, maintain patient access to drugs, and position the combined entity as an industry leader. This Ms. Elisa Nogueira, one board member said with skepticism. She is willing to merge her successful company with ours during a crisis of this magnitude? What is her motivation? Victor and his father exchanged glances. There is something else you need to know, Victor admitted. Elisa Noguera is Elisa Ribeiro, my ex-wife. The murmurs of astonishment around the table mirrored the explosive nature of this revelation. The woman Julian claimed was unfaithful, a senior board member clarified. The one who disappeared 6 years ago? Yes, Victor confirmed. Julian fabricated evidence against her to hide his own financial crimes. She was innocent of all charges. And now she is our main competitor? Another asked in disbelief. She is, Victor acknowledged. She is also the mother of my 6-year-old twins, whom I met for the first time yesterday. The stunned silence that followed was finally broken by the board's oldest member, Margarita Chen. It is not something one simply gets over. Victor considered her question seriously. I've started therapy, he admitted. Something I should have done years ago, after my brother's death. Julião exploited my grief and insecurities masterfully. He looked at her. I am not the same man who cast her out, Elisa. I cannot change what I did, but I can ensure I do not make that kind of mistake again. Elisa nodded, accepting his answer without comment. The merger announcement caught headlines in business publications. Phoenix and Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals announce historic merger. CEO Elisa Noguera, revealed as ex-wife of Victor Ribeiro, in surprising corporate and personal reconciliation. The personal aspect of the story, the wronged wife returning triumphantly with hidden children and a superior company, captured the public's imagination. Interview requests poured in, which Elisa politely but firmly refused. This is not a tabloid drama, she told her public relations team. This is a business merger with personal elements that are not for public consumption. As the weeks passed, Victor's relationship with the twins gradually deepened. Leo began to lower his guard, especially after discovering his father's extensive library and their shared interest in geology. Luna simply adopted Victor as if he had always been there, naturally incorporating him into her expansive view of the world. The twins' upcoming 7th birthday became a focal point. Victor, eager to make the occasion memorable, repeatedly consulted Elisa about appropriate gifts and arrangements. Nothing extravagant, she warned. They don't need to be showered with expensive presents to make up for lost time. I know, Victor assured her, but I'd like to contribute something meaningful to the space theme Luna requested. On the day before the birthday celebration, Victor showed up at Elisa's penthouse with Dr. Vidal, who had become an unexpected ally in helping him navigate his new relationship with his children. We have a proposal, Dr. Vidal announced for the birthday party. Elisa raised an eyebrow. I thought everything was arranged. Helena's making the cake, the decorations are ready, and the planetarium visit is set for tomorrow morning. This would be an addition, Victor explained. With your approval, of course. He described his idea. A professional observatory had agreed to a private nighttime viewing session after the planetarium visit. The twins and their friends would have access to powerful telescopes on an unusually clear night when several planets would be visible. That's truly perfect, Elisa acknowledged. Luna will be euphoric. And for Leo, Victor continued with more hesitation. I arranged for a geologist from the Natural History Museum to bring several rare specimens for him to examine, including, he added with a small smile, a fragment of the meteorite that created the Chicxulub crater. Elisa looked at him with new appreciation. You've been paying attention to their interests. Of course, Victor replied simply. They're extraordinary children. Getting to know them has been the greatest privilege of my life. The birthday celebration went off without a hitch. The twins, surrounded by school friends and both sides of their unconventional family, blossomed under the attention. Helena and Victor's mother had formed an unexpected alliance, coordinating decorations and food with military precision. Ricardo, Victor's father, initially awkward with the children, had found his niche helping Leo organize his growing rock collection. At the observatory that night, after the other children had been picked up by their parents, the core family group remained. Luna moved from telescope to telescope with boundless enthusiasm, while Leo carefully logged his observations in a notebook Victor had given him. While the children were occupied with Dr. Vidal and the elder Riberos, Victor found himself standing next to Elisa at the observatory's railing, looking out over the city lights. "Thank you," he said in a low voice, "for letting me be a part of today." Elisa nodded, her expression softening in the faint light. "You did well. The observatory was the perfect gift." "I meant what I said earlier," Victor continued carefully. "Getting to know them, even with all the years I lost, is the greatest gift I could have received." Elisa turned to him, studying him. The man she had once loved so completely, now a different person molded by loss and revelation. "You've changed," she observed. "I had to," Victor replied simply. "The man I was 6 years ago lost everything that mattered because he couldn't see what he had in front of him." "Not everything," Elisa corrected, looking at the twins. "They are still yours, in the ways that matter most." "Thanks to you," Victor acknowledged, "because despite everything, you made sure they knew who I was." A comfortable silence settled between them, not the intimacy of their old relationship, but something new, a shared appreciation for the extraordinary children they had raised, and the complex path that had brought them to this moment. "Mommy, Daddy," Luna called out excitedly. The parental designations now came naturally to her. "They found Saturn's rings. Come see." As they moved to join their children, Victor paused. "Elisa, I know we can never be what we were, and I've accepted that. But I want you to know that I'm grateful for this second chance to be in their lives, and in ours, even if it's just as co-parents and business partners." Elisa considered his words carefully. "Life rarely gives us what we expect, Victor. Sometimes it takes away what we thought we couldn't live without, only to replace it with something we never imagined was possible." As the twins called them back excitedly, she added, "Let's just focus on giving them the stable, loving family they deserve, whatever form that takes. The legacy of truth." A year after the dramatic wedding interruption, the twins' 8th birthday arrived with considerably less drama, but a lot more joy. The Phoenix Ribeiro Pharmaceuticals had not only survived the merger, but had thrived. Combining Elisa's innovative research approaches with Ribeiro's established infrastructure, the company had become an industry leader in ethical practices, transparent testing, and affordable drug pricing. The birthday celebration was held at Victor's new home, a comfortable but not ostentatious house with a sprawling backyard, perfect for the dinosaur-themed party Leo had requested. His interest had shifted from rocks to paleontology in the last few months. Elisa arrived early to help with preparations, bringing Helena and Dr. Vidal, who had become regular fixtures in the twins' extended family circle. Victor's parents were already there, Ricardo carefully assembling a realistic-looking volcano that would safely erupt during the party, while his wife arranged prehistoric-looking plants around the garden. "It all looks incredible," Elisa commented, surveying the transformed backyard. "The kids are going to love it." "I hope so," Victor replied, emerging from the house with trays of fossil-shaped cookies. Leo was very specific about scientific accuracy. "He gets that from both of us," Elisa observed with a smile. Their relationship had evolved over the last year into a comfortable co-parenting arrangement. The initial tension had gradually given way to mutual respect as they navigated both their corporate merger and their shared responsibility for the twins. The children had adapted to their new family structure with remarkable resilience. They now spent 3 nights a week at Victor's house and the rest of the time at Elisa's penthouse. Far from being confused by the arrangement, They seemed to thrive, having both parents actively involved in their lives. As the guests began to arrive, school friends, colleagues from both companies, and the unconventional extended family they had assembled, Elisa found herself watching Victor interact with the children. His transformation over the last year had been remarkable. The ambitious, sometimes arrogant pharmaceutical heir had been replaced by a thoughtful, patient father who prioritized his children above all else. "He's done well, hasn't he?" Dr. Vidal observed, joining Elisa at the edge of the garden. "Better than I expected, to be honest." "Yes," Elisa nodded. "The twins adore him." "And you?" Dr. Vidal asked softly. "How do you feel about all this? It can't be easy watching him integrate so seamlessly into the life you built without him." Elisa considered the question. "Actually, it's been easier than I anticipated. Victor isn't trying to take over or change what's already working. He's simply adding himself to the equation in ways that benefit the children." "And in ways that benefit you?" Dr. Vidal pressed gently. "Having a co-parent after 6 years of doing everything alone must be a relief." "It is," Elisa acknowledged, "though I sometimes feel guilty about it. After everything that happened, should I let him make my life easier?" Dr. Vidal smiled knowingly. "Forgiveness isn't just about him, Elisa. It's about you freeing yourself from the weight of the past." Before Elisa could reply, another guest arrived. David Vidal, Dr. Vidal's son, carrying an elaborately wrapped present. Over the last year, David had become a frequent visitor at family gatherings. As a pediatric surgeon, who had initially treated Leo for a minor sports injury, he had formed a natural bond with both children. "I'm sorry I'm late," he apologized, greeting Elisa with a warm smile. "An emergency surgery ran long." "You're just in time," Elisa assured him. "The volcano eruption isn't scheduled for another 30 minutes. As David moved to greet the twins, who welcomed him with evident affection, Dr. Vidal gave Elisa a meaningful look. "He canceled a conference in Porto to be here today," she mentioned casually. "He said the twins' birthday was more important." Elisa felt a flush of warmth at this information. Her friendship with David had developed gradually, but neither of them had taken steps to define it as anything more. "He's good with them," Elisa observed neutrally, though her expression softened as she watched David help Leo adjust his paleontologist costume. The party went off perfectly. With the volcano eruption as the dramatic highlight, Leo and Luna, surrounded by school friends and their unconventional extended family, radiated happiness as they blew out the candles on their dinosaur cake. As the celebration began to wind down, Victor approached Elisa with 2 glasses of champagne. "A toast," he suggested, "to our extraordinary children." Elisa accepted the glass. "To Leo and Luna, may they always be this happy." They drank in silent understanding, watching as the twins excitedly showed their friends the real fossil specimens Victor had obtained from the museum. "I wanted to tell you," Victor said after a moment. "The investigation into Julião and Sophia's activities has finally wrapped up. Their sentencing is next month." Elisa nodded. The legal proceedings had been extensive, uncovering even more widespread fraud than was initially suspected. "Did they give any explanation for why they did it? Why they specifically targeted you?" Victor's expression hardened slightly. "Julião eventually admitted that he realized you were close to discovering irregularities in the research data," Victor explained. "He knew your scientific rigor would eventually expose the shortcuts he was taking. Getting you out of the way was an act of self-preservation." "And Sophia?" Victor's expression hardened. "Apparently she always resented our relationship. She saw Julião's plot as an opportunity to get what she had wanted since university, wealth and status as a Ribeiro." Elisa absorbed this information thoughtfully. "It's strange to think how differently everything could have been if you had just listened to me that night." I know, Victor acknowledged, with clear regret in his voice. Not a day goes by that I don't think about it. If I could change one single moment in my life, it would be that one. And yet, Elisa reflected, watching the joyful chaos of her children's birthday party. Would we want to change it? Phoenix wouldn't exist. Your parents wouldn't have Helena to terrify them with her brutally honest opinions. She smiled slightly. Dr. Vidal and I wouldn't have revolutionized cancer treatment protocols. A silver lining to my catastrophic mistake, Victor suggested, with a self-deprecating smile. Perhaps, Elisa admitted, although the cost was tremendous. Their conversation was interrupted by David, who approached with an apologetic expression. Sorry to interrupt, but Leo insists that only a doctor can properly examine his new fossil collection for scientific accuracy. Apparently, my credentials as a surgeon qualify me for this honor. Victor laughed. You'd better not keep him waiting. He takes his fossils very seriously. As David walked away, Victor looked between him and Elisa with knowing eyes. He's a good man, he observed neutrally. Yes, Elisa nodded simply. The twins are comfortable with him. Victor continued carefully. They mentioned he sometimes takes them on Saturday outings. He does, Elisa confirmed. He's been a good friend. Victor studied her expression. Just a friend? Elisa looked at him directly. We're taking things very slowly. The children are my priority. As they should be, Victor nodded. But Elisa, if he makes you happy, don't let the past, our past, get in the way. The simple sincerity of his statement touched Elisa unexpectedly. This was another testament to how much Victor had changed, the ability to genuinely wish for her happiness, even with someone else. Later that night, after the last guests had gone home and the twins were sleeping in their rooms at Victor's house, the adults gathered in the backyard. Helena and the elder Riberos were deep in an animated debate about educational approaches, while Dr. Vidal shared stories of her early research days. David sat next to Elisa, their hands occasionally brushing in a way that suggested a growing intimacy. Victor, noticing this, smiled to himself before turning his attention back to the conversation. As midnight approached, Helena announced that it was time for them to leave, which prompted a general movement. To end the night, the twins would stay with Victor until the next morning, according to their established routine. I'll walk you out, David offered, as Elisa gathered her belongings. At the front door, away from the others, he hesitated. I wanted to ask you something. Elisa looked at him expectantly. There's a medical conference in Vienna next month, he explained. 3 days. I was thinking, maybe you would consider coming with me. We could extend it to a week, see the city. The invitation hung between them, not just an offer of travel, but a step toward a clearer definition of their relationship. I'd need to check with Victor about the twins, Elisa began cautiously. I already did, David admitted with a shy smile. He assured me he could adjust his schedule to have them that week. Dr. Vidal also offered to help. Elisa raised an eyebrow. You've been planning this. I've been waiting, David corrected softly. I know how important the twins are to you. I wouldn't suggest anything that would complicate their lives. The thoughtfulness behind his consideration, not just for her, but for the entire complex family she had built, touched Elisa deeply. Vienna sounds wonderful, she said finally, allowing herself to accept the possibility of a personal happiness that had nothing to do with revenge or redemption. The next morning, Victor prepared breakfast as the twins energetically recounted their favorite parts of the party. Eliza arrived to pick them up, accompanied by David, who had offered to drive them to their weekend science club. As the adults supervised the breakfast cleanup, an unexpected moment of harmony settled in the kitchen. Victor and David discussing the twins' educational interests, Elisa organizing the week's schedule, everyone operating with the comfortable rhythm of people who had found a way to put the children's needs above all else. When the twins ran off to get their science projects, Victor took the opportunity to speak with Elisa privately. "I wanted to thank you," he said in a low voice. "For what?" Elisa asked, genuinely confused. "For allowing me to be a part of their lives," Victor explained. "For not letting bitterness consume you, when you had every right to." Elisa considered his words carefully. "Do you know what the real secret was? What ultimately ruined you?" Victor waited. "It wasn't the twins," she continued. "It wasn't Phoenix Pharmaceuticals or the exposure of Julian's schemes. It was showing you that redemption was possible, but that forgiveness had to be earned every day. The man who cast me out that night would never have understood that. The man standing in front of me now does." Her words held no malice, only an acknowledgement of the truth. Victor nodded slowly, accepting both the evaluation and the implicit recognition that he had, in fact, changed. "Mommy, Daddy, we're ready!" Luna called from the hallway, where she and Leo waited with their backpacks and science projects. As they moved to join the children, Victor asked softly, "Are you happy, Elisa? Truly?" She looked at David, who was helping Leo adjust his dinosaur diorama. Then back at the twins, healthy, bright, and surrounded by people who loved them. Finally, she considered herself, the woman who had gone from destitution to building a pharmaceutical empire, who had raised extraordinary children alone, and who had now found a peaceful resolution to what had once seemed an unforgivable betrayal. "Yes," she answered honestly. "Not in the way I once imagined, but perhaps in a better way than I could have ever planned." Outside, as they prepared to part ways, the twins going with Elisa and David to science club, Victor heading to a company meeting, Leo suddenly stopped. "Wait," he said seriously. "We forgot something important." The adults exchanged worried glances. "What is it, sweetheart?" Elisa asked. "Our family picture," Leo explained, pointing to the camera that was still on the party's entryway table. "We're supposed to take one after every birthday. It's our tradition." The simple request to document their unconventional family momentarily silenced the adults. It was Luna who solved the practical problem. "We need the timer," she declared, already setting up the camera. "Everyone by the garden wall. Quick!" They gathered according to the instructions. Victor and Elisa with the twins between them. David and the others arranged around them. As the timer counted down, Leo and Luna smiled, with the simple joy of children surrounded by adults who had found a way to put love above resentment, forgiveness above revenge. The camera clicked, capturing a moment that would have seemed impossible 2 years before. Not a perfect family by conventional standards, but one that had been forged through extraordinary circumstances into something resilient and real. Later that night, as Elisa reviewed work documents while the twins finished homework at her dining table, her phone buzzed with a message from Victor. He had sent the family photo, accompanied by a simple text. "It's not what either of us imagined, but maybe it's better than we planned. Thank you for showing me that the most powerful revenge was not destruction, but creation." Elisa studied the image, the cheerful faces of her children, surrounded by the unusual extended family they had assembled. Victor was right. The revenge she had finally taken wasn't to destroy him or his company. It was to create something so extraordinary from the ashes of betrayal that it transformed everyone it touched, including herself.